Hello everyone, my name is Rebecca Harris-Simchuk. I'm a junior honors college student here at Taos University, majoring in biology with a concentration in cell and molecular studies. I know it's a mouthful. Even more so, my minor is molecular biology, biochemistry, or bioinformatics, which is MB3 for short. A fun fact about me is I run the EcoRep program here at Taos University as a student leader, which is a program and cohort where students learn about the environment, how to help their peers be more environmentally friendly, and overall learn about climate change. And today I'm here to talk to you about the population decline in pollinators in the state of Maryland and why it's important that we protect them, as they are very vulnerable due to human-mediated impacts on the environment as of current. So first things first, let's define what a pollinator is. A pollinator is an animal, insect, or any kind of bee or butterfly that can move pollen from one flowering plant to another flowering plant. And it's really important that I use the word flowering plant here because only plants that flower, essentially things that are called angiosperms in scientific terms, so flowering plants, can produce any kind of vegetables, fruits, and things that we humans eat, which is really important because I'm sure we all like to eat. So going forward, let's talk about these native species in the state of Maryland that are really important. So first things first, we know that we have bees, we have butterflies, we have moths, but flies can also actually be a pollinator. And getting into those specific species that we want to protect, we have the bumblebee, we have the cellophane bee, and we have the carpenter bee, which are all beautiful bees that actually will not attack you unless provoked because they are not wasps. Wasps are very agitated and vicious creatures if provoked. Moving forward, we also have butterfly creatures and moth species that are also really great pollinators, which is why it's important that we have plants and a vast majority of biodiversity that can support their environment and their population, such as the monarch butterfly. We have things such as the tiger swallowtail and the hummingbird moth. More so, we have even more species, such as those flies I was mentioning earlier. We have the flower fly and the hoverfly, which again help move pollen around and help us as humans eat and fertilize all the things that we need to eat to basically survive. So delving into this idea of food security and insecurity issues, I'd like to give a statistic first and pose a question to you all to kind of get some critical thinking time in. So starting off with 4 different percentages. And don't worry, again, I'll give you a second to think about it. But what percentage of flowering species are pollinated by pollinators? If you guessed 87%, you would be absolutely correct. And what this means is about 87% of leading global food crops are pollinated by pollinators. So these are things like corn, tomatoes, green beans, things that we can find in the grocery store that is easily accessible for the most part. And again, what this means long term is if we're losing big populations of pollinators, we could be looking at a long-term decrease in human populations. So a lot of food insecurity deaths. So, I think there are some statistics out there that are looking about like 500,000 people around the globe would be dying. And that's just annually. In addition, this also looks like a decrease in nutrient uptake. So that's a really interesting process that I probably won't get into today because it's a little bit more complex, but just know that without pollinators, we're not having as vast majority in our diet as humans and especially as other organisms in the environment that are exposed to different things like vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamin A, things that are found in our foods that are really important for us to get big and strong or for animals to get big and strong. I'd also like to take a second to really talk to you all about ecosystem disruption, as it's one of the bigger key components of this presentation today. So earlier I mentioned that there are some human-mediated impacts that are really the prime reason why pollinators are declining and their populations are decreasing. So some of this could look like climate change, right? So if humans have really increased the carbon emissions in the past couple years, past probably 50 years, and this has caused an increased heating and cooling in our environment. We have also been using a lot of pesticides and chemical fertilizers that has really been actually killing our pollinator species. Because if something is too acidic or something is too basic, it can actually really harm and damage the sensory organs in these pollinators. And then even more so, we are basically taking their habitats away from them. We are cutting down trees. We are mowing lawns. We are getting rid of natural meadows for building up different architectural structures, which there's a trade-off here. We obviously need those things, but we also obviously need our pollinators. So there needs to be some policy change or things of that nature that are really intentional about making sure we have protected native wildlife locations or native parks and things of that sort. To talk about some solutions now, there are 3 main things I'm going to urge you to do. First things first is going to any big box store like Target or Walmart and buying pollinator seed mix, as you can put it in your front and backyard and actually grow wildflowers and biodiverse plants that pollinators are attracted to. 2, getting involved with local policymakers and people that can actually change the written law. So get involved in those organizations. And 3, just being very environmentally aware of what you do and how you do things and how that impacts the environment around you. So choosing to maybe bike to work instead of drive to work, things of that nature. But thank you for listening to my presentation today, and I hope you learned a lot about pollinators and why they are so important to us.